Hello, everybody. Today, I am going to talk on the topic why greed can inspire good. Greed, it's a word that makes most people think of selfishness, of excessive ambition that disregards others, but let me propose a different perspective. What if greed, under the right conditions, can actually push society forward? What if that very drive to accumulate, to win, to excel, can serve as one of the greatest forces for innovation we have? We often think about greed purely as a vice, but it can also be a motivator one that, if harnessed properly, can lead to advancements that benefit everyone. When we talk about the root of innovation, it's not always pure altruism. In fact, many of the most significant leaps in technology and ideas have been driven by a desire for profit, a desire to be the best, a desire to succeed. Think about some of the world's greatest innovators. Were they purely motivated by the idea of making the world a better place? Or was there a part of them that also wanted to win, to achieve, to leave a mark that no one else had left? Greed, in that sense, is often the push that gets people out of their comfort zones and drives them to do something new and different. Now, it's important to understand that greed, when unchecked, can be dangerous. We've seen that happen too many times to ignore. But I'm talking about a kind of focused ambition, a structured greed that has boundaries and limits. It's that balanced version that can lead to extraordinary things. Imagine a researcher in a lab, someone who's driven by the possibility of not only solving a big problem, but also gaining recognition and, yes, financial reward. That person might work late into the night, go through failure after failure, just to reach a breakthrough. That's not necessarily pure altruism. It's a mix of personal ambition and a desire to create something meaningful. Let's talk about the tech industry. Silicon Valley, for example, is often seen as the epitome of innovation, but it's also one of the most competitive places on earth. Companies there are constantly pushing the boundaries, not just because they want to make the world a better place, but because they want to be the best, to make the most, to create something no one else has created. That's greed in action, and it's a powerful driver of progress. When companies compete to create the next big thing, they end up pushing each other to do better, to think outside the box, to challenge assumptions. That competition, driven by a desire for profit, results in innovations that benefit society as a whole. Consider the field of medicine. Pharmaceutical companies are often criticized for their focus on profit, and there's certainly merit to that critique. But if we look at the positive side, the drive for profit has also led to significant medical breakthroughs. These companies invest billions into research and development, not just because they want to save lives, but because there's a financial reward waiting if they succeed. That's a form of greed, but it's one that has given us life-saving drugs, vaccines, and treatments. It's a reminder that sometimes the pursuit of profit can align with the pursuit of good. When I talk to business leaders, I often hear about their passion for what they do, their drive to be successful. But behind that passion is often a desire to create something that will stand out, that will be valued, that will bring in revenue. That's not a bad thing. In fact, it's what keeps many businesses striving to improve. It's what pushes them to innovate, to constantly look for new ways to solve problems. Greed, in this context, is a catalyst. It's what transforms good ideas into great ones, and it's what drives people to take risks, to invest in new projects, to break new ground. Think about the automobile industry. Decades ago, the goal was simple: make cars faster, make them better, make them cheaper. But as the industry evolved, companies realized there was more to be done. Now, we have electric cars, autonomous vehicles, and technologies that reduce emissions. Why? Partly because there's a market for it, and partly because companies realized that innovation in these areas could bring them success. They saw the potential to lead in a new area, to be the first to capture a growing market. That's greed, but it's greed that led to innovation, to advancements that benefit all of us. Greed, in a way, is like fuel. It can be dangerous if it spills, if it's uncontrolled, if it consumes everything in its path. But when it's directed, when it's channeled towards something productive, it becomes a powerful force. It's what drives people to keep going, even when the odds are stacked against them. It's what pushes companies to invest in new ideas, even when there's a risk of failure. And it's what leads to the kind of groundbreaking innovations that can change the world. I remember reading about the early days of the internet, the people who were building the first websites, the first online platforms. They weren't just doing it because they wanted to connect the world. They were also driven by the idea that this could be big, that this could be profitable, that this could be their legacy. That desire to be at the forefront, to succeed, to make something of value was a form of greed. But look at what it gave us. The internet has transformed every aspect of our lives, from communication to commerce to education. Now, you might ask, does that mean greed is always good? No, Absolutely not. Greed without limits, greed without ethics, greed that disregards the impact on others, that kind of greed is destructive. But when it's controlled, when it's tempered by a sense of responsibility, it can lead to incredible things. It's about balance. It's about recognizing that ambition, the desire to succeed, the drive to win, can be channeled into something that serves a larger purpose. So when we talk about greed as a catalyst for innovation, we're really talking about the power of ambition, the power of competition, the power of wanting something so badly that you're willing to put in the work, to take the risks, to make it happen. That's the kind of greed that leads to progress. It's the kind that pushes society forward, that challenges the status quo, that opens up new possibilities. If we look at history, we see this pattern over and over. The great inventors, the pioneers, the visionaries, they were often driven by a mix of altruism and personal ambition. They wanted to make a difference, but they also wanted to be the first, the best, the most successful. Right? That drive, that desire is a form of greed. And when it's aligned with a purpose, when it's aimed at creating something valuable, it leads to extraordinary results. In the end, greed is simply a part of human nature. It's neither inherently good nor inherently bad. It's what we do with it that matters. When we recognize that greed can be a catalyst, we start to see it in a different light. We start to understand that ambition, the desire to achieve, to succeed, to win, can be harnessed for good. It's about directing that energy towards something meaningful, something that benefits not just ourselves, but others as well. So yes, greed can inspire good, it can drive innovation, it can lead to breakthroughs, it can push us to create, to build, to dream. It's up to us to channel it, to control it, to use it in a way that serves a higher purpose. Because when we do that, when we turn our ambition into something that has value, we're not just satisfying our own desires. We're contributing to something larger, something that can make a difference, something that can change the world. And that, I believe, is the true potential of greed. Economic growth and job creation happen when we invest in people, not just for the sake of profit, but because people are the foundation of every organization. When companies look at the bottom line alone, they often lose sight of the fact that their greatest asset is the people who come in every day and do the work. Real growth is the result of nurturing an environment where people feel inspired, safe, and connected. Imagine walking into an organization where people are genuinely excited to be there. It's not because of a paycheck. It's not because of perks or benefits alone. It's because they feel part of something bigger than themselves, something meaningful. That's when you see people stepping up, working together, and taking pride in their work. And that's where the real potential for growth lies. This isn't about increasing productivity through pressure or fear. It's about creating an environment where people feel safe enough to take risks, innovate, and truly give their best. When people are valued, they're motivated to contribute in ways that drive the company forward, and that's how jobs are created and growth is sustained. Now, when I say people need to feel safe, I'm talking about a sense of psychological safety. People need to know that they can take risks, share ideas, and even make mistakes without fear of reprimand. In too many workplaces, fear is used as a motivator, and while that may lead to short-term gains, it ultimately stifles creativity and discourages people from giving their best. Real growth comes from building a culture of trust where people feel they can experiment, challenge the status quo, and work together to find solutions. When employees feel safe, they're more likely to go the extra mile, innovate, and solve problems in creative ways. And that, in turn, leads to new opportunities, increased productivity, and ultimately more jobs. Economic growth is not just about scaling up numbers, it's about scaling up value. Think about companies that focus solely on hitting targets or maximizing shareholder returns. They may see some success initially, but over time, this single-minded focus often leads to burnout, turnover, and a toxic work culture. The companies that experience sustainable growth are those that prioritize people. They understand that when employees are taken care of, they'll take care of the company. These organizations invest in training, offer career development opportunities, and focus on building leaders at all levels. And that's where job creation comes into play, because when people are supported, they're more likely to grow within the company, filling roles as the organization expands. There's a common misconception that profit and purpose are mutually exclusive, that you have to choose one or the other. But the reality is, when companies lead with purpose, profit follows. People are naturally drawn to organizations that stand for something beyond just making money. Customers are more loyal, employees are more engaged, and the community benefits. When people see that a company is committed to something meaningful, they're more likely to support it, and that drives growth. And as the company grows, it creates more opportunities for jobs. Corporate social responsibility, or CSR, is not a mandate. It's not about ticking off a checklist, doing the bare minimum, or pretending to care. CSR is a mindset, a belief system that says we are here to serve, not just profit. When a company embraces CSR with integrity, it steps into a larger role in society, becoming more than just a place that provides goods and services or collects revenue. It becomes an active part of a community, taking responsibility not only for the impact it has on people and the environment, but also for creating a future we're all proud of. Imagine if every business, regardless of its size, started asking a simple question: what kind of world do we want to help create? This question forces us to consider the long-term impact of our choices. It's not just about whether we're making more profit this quarter. It's about whether we're building something that people believe in, trust, and want to be part of. This is the essence of CSR. It's about understanding that as companies, we have an influence that extends beyond our immediate transactions. Think about this: a company has a network that spans customers, employees, suppliers, and communities. Each decision we make resonates through this network. It affects the lives of our employees, who spend a good portion of their lives at work. It affects the communities in which we operate, and ultimately, it affects the consumers who use our products or services. CSR is a commitment to ensuring that every one of these groups is considered and valued. It's an acknowledgement that our actions ripple outward and that we have a choice in shaping those ripples for the better. Now, some companies get it right. They embed CSR into the very fabric of their identity. They don't separate their business strategy from their responsibility to society. Take Patagonia, for example. This is a company that exists not only to sell outdoor apparel, but to champion environmental stewardship. They've committed to using sustainable materials, to repairing and reselling their products to reduce waste, and even to encourage their customers to consume less. That's right, they're telling people to buy less. Why? Because their mission is to save our home planet. Their responsibility to the environment is not a PR stunt, it's a deeply ingrained value. Customers feel that, and it's why they trust Patagonia. They believe the company genuinely cares about more than just the bottom line. But here's the irony: when companies genuinely commit to CSR, they often find that it strengthens their business. Customers become loyal to brands they believe are doing good. Employees take pride in working for a company that stands for something. And investors recognize that a brand built on trust and integrity is more likely to stand the test of time. CSR becomes a powerful differentiator, especially in a market where people are increasingly conscious of who they buy from and work for. Yet too often we see companies treating CSR as a marketing tool, a way to look good without really being good. Maybe they make a one-time donation, plant a few trees, or publish an annual sustainability report that glosses over the real issues. But real CSR is not about doing just enough to appease public scrutiny. It's about making a commitment that's embedded in the company's DNA. It's about values, not vanity. And the companies that get this, that truly live it, are the ones that people rally behind. Because we can sense when something is authentic. It all starts from the inside out. If you're running a company or leading a team, you need to set the tone. You need to make it clear that CSR is not an optional add-on, it's integral to who you are. And that starts with understanding what your company values. What are the causes that align with your mission? What are the issues that matter to your employees, to your customers, to the communities where you operate? CSR isn't a one-size-fits-all model. It's about finding the intersections between what your company does well and what the world needs. Let's take another example: Microsoft. In recent years, they've made bold commitments around carbon neutrality, water conservation, and digital inclusion. They're not just saying we'll reduce our emissions, they're saying we'll go carbon negative, which means removing more carbon from the atmosphere than they emit. This is ambitious and it's risky, but it's also inspiring. It shows that they're willing to take responsibility not only for their own footprint, but also to make a positive contribution to the planet. That's CSR at its best, a willingness to go beyond compliance, to set an example, and to challenge others to step up. CSR also involves recognizing the human aspect of business. Every decision we make affects real people, our employees, our customers, our partners, so we have a responsibility to treat people with respect and fairness, to provide decent wages, good working conditions, and opportunities for growth. CSR isn't just about the environment, it's about creating a culture where people feel valued and supported. When companies prioritize the well-being of their employees, they create a ripple effect. Happier employees mean better service, higher productivity, and ultimately a more successful business. There's a reason why some of the most successful companies have the lowest employee turnover rates. Look at companies like Salesforce, which emphasizes employee engagement and community involvement. They give employees paid time off to volunteer, they encourage diversity and inclusion, and they support mental health initiatives. They understand that CSR is about building a company where people feel good about coming to work. And when people feel good, they do good. They bring that positivity and energy to every interaction they have with customers, with partners, with the world. But here's the thing, CSR isn't just for large corporations. Small businesses, startups, and entrepreneurs also have a role to play. In fact, smaller companies can often make a more direct impact because they're closer to their communities. It could be as simple as sourcing materials locally, reducing waste, or supporting a local charity. CSR is not about scale, it's about intent. It's about showing that you care, even if your resources are limited. And for those who might think CSR is a luxury, something that only companies with deep pockets can afford, I would argue that it's an investment. It's an investment in trust, in loyalty, and resilience. Businesses that adopt CSR are better equipped to navigate challenges because they've built a strong foundation based on shared values. They're not just focused on profits, they're focused on purpose. And purpose-driven companies are the ones that thrive, even in difficult times. Consider how companies responded during the pandemic. Some stepped up to support their employees, their customers, and their communities. They offered flexible work arrangements, donated resources, and even repurposed their facilities to produce essential supplies. These companies didn't wait to be asked, they took action because they understood their responsibility. And those actions weren't just appreciated, they were remembered. In moments of crisis, people notice who stands by them, who takes care of their needs, who shows empathy. Philanthropy from wealth accumulation is something that many people often overlook. When we think about wealth, we immediately think about success, luxury, or even greed. We tend to forget that real wealth, can be used for more than just personal gain. When individuals accumulate wealth, it isn't just about the dollars or assets they amass. It's about what they do with that wealth once they have it. What if I told you that the accumulation of wealth doesn't have to solely benefit the individual? What if it could be used to better the world around us? We often hear about the world's wealthiest people who have made it to the top by taking risks, making tough decisions, and strategically building their empires. They started out with an idea, a drive, and a desire to change the world around them. But that's not the end of the story. It's not just about making money. It's what comes after the choices that these wealthy individuals make once they reach a certain level of success. They can either choose to keep their wealth for themselves, enjoying the fruits of their labor, or they can choose to invest in the broader world, using their wealth to address some of the most pressing issues facing society. Let's think about it from a different angle. We're not talking about charity as a handout. No, we're talking about philanthropy. True philanthropy doesn't just throw money at a problem. True philanthropy is about creating a lasting impact, something that will last beyond the lifetime of any single individual. It's about solving problems in a sustainable way. Philanthropy is an extension of business, not the opposite of it. And this is where wealth comes in. When individuals accumulate wealth, they have the means to act. They don't just have the resources to address immediate concerns, they have the capacity to plan long-term, to build structures that can withstand time and make meaningful, widespread changes. When you look at the world's wealthiest individuals, you see a pattern. Many of them do not just accumulate wealth for the sake of it. They use that wealth as a tool to solve some of the world's biggest challenges. Take Bill Gates, for instance. Bill didn't just make his fortune through Microsoft. He made his fortune because he created something that changed the world. But what's even more impressive is what he did after that. With the wealth he accumulated, Bill Gates and his foundation, through their efforts, have provided billions of dollars to tackle global health issues, improve education, and support the development of sustainable energy solutions. He didn't have to do this, but he chose to. It wasn't just about what he could gain from his wealth, it was about how he could use it to improve the lives of others. And what's more important here is that his wealth didn't just serve him. It served millions of people across the globe. Warren Buffett, another example, is another individual who took a similar approach. Known for his immense wealth accumulated through investments, Buffett didn't choose to simply retire and live in luxury. Instead, he committed to giving away the majority of his wealth to causes he believes in. His philosophy was simple: when you have accumulated wealth, it is your responsibility to give back. Buffett's contributions to various causes, particularly through his partnership with Gates and other philanthropists, have had a transformative effect on healthcare, education, and poverty alleviation. These individuals didn't stop at just making money. They didn't just build their companies, retire, and enjoy their wealth. They used that wealth to invest in causes that would outlive them. They took on issues that no one else could solve because of the scale of the resources they had access to. Their wealth, which could have been solely for their own enjoyment, was redirected to the greater good. But this goes beyond just giving away money. It's about investing in scalable solutions that can create systemic change. This is the essence of philanthropy. It's not about handing out cash or making donations that disappear. It's about creating sustainable solutions that have a lasting impact. And this is where wealth accumulation has the power to change the world. When you have wealth, you don't just get to solve small problems, you get to think big, tackle large-scale issues, and shift the course of history. And when you think about wealth in those terms, it's clear that it's not just about what you do for yourself. It's about how you use your resources to make the world a better place. In many ways, philanthropy is a natural extension of wealth accumulation. Wealth allows people to step beyond the immediate needs of their own lives and start thinking on a larger scale. They can build foundations, invest in education, health technology, and other areas that will have a lasting impact. They can shift entire industries, make meaningful strides in eradicating poverty, or help solve global environmental issues. But the key here is that they don't do this because they are obligated to. They do it because they have the resources, the power, and the capacity to make a difference. What's more important to understand is that this isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. Each person can choose how they want to use their wealth. They can focus on different causes, tackle different issues, and address problems in unique ways. But the underlying theme is the same. The accumulation of wealth provides individuals with the power to affect change. They are in a unique position to take on issues that others simply cannot. And with that power comes responsibility. When we talk about philanthropy, it's easy to assume that it's a form of charity, something that is done out of obligation or guilt. But in reality, it's about using wealth as a tool for good. It's about creating impact. It's about having the foresight to recognize the difference between short-term benefits and long-term meaningful change. True philanthropy takes vision. It takes commitment. It's not just about writing a check, it's about dedicating time, energy, and resources to initiatives that will make a real difference. And let's not forget that philanthropy, when done right, benefits both the giver and the recipient. Yes, it's true that the recipient receives tangible aid or support, but there's something deeply rewarding for the giver as well. The act of giving, truly giving, with the intent to make a lasting impact, is a deeply fulfilling process. It creates a sense of purpose. It reinforces the idea that wealth is not just something to be hoarded, it's something to be used as a means of making the world a better place. It's not just about the accumulation of wealth, but the redistribution of it in ways that benefit society as a whole. In many ways, this concept should be at the core of how we think about wealth. Wealth isn't just about the dollars in your bank account. It's about what you can do with those dollars to help the world around you. Whether it's through funding education, supporting medical research, or helping to protect the environment, wealth, when used responsibly, becomes a powerful tool for good. So, next time we think about wealth, let's not just think about what it can buy us personally. Let's think about what it can do for the world. True philanthropy is not a side project, it's a responsibility. And wealth, when accumulated, can be the vehicle through which we create lasting change in the world. It's not just a matter of giving away money, it's about using that money to solve problems, create opportunities, and build a better future for everyone. Wealth gives us the ability to change lives. And when we recognize that power, we have the chance to shape a future that's brighter, fairer, and more just for all. Greed in competitive markets fosters efficiency. Let's consider that phrase and think about what it really means. When companies are driven by a desire to get ahead, to capture market share, and to maximize profits, they push themselves to be better, faster, and more effective. It's easy to look at this and see it as pure self-interest, but there's an interesting side effect: the pressure to outperform, to deliver more value, and to make more money compels companies to find ways to reduce waste, streamline operations, and improve the quality of their products and services. This drive for efficiency isn't just a corporate goal. It's a fundamental need in competitive markets. Think of a company in an industry where every competitor is pushing the envelope. If it stands still, it loses ground. If it doesn't innovate, find efficiencies, or improve its product, it risks losing customers to others who are more driven, more agile, or more ambitious. This pressure forces companies to constantly review and refine how they operate. They have to ask, how can we do this faster, better, and at a lower cost? It's a relentless pursuit of improvement that benefits not just the company, but ultimately the consumer as well. Now, let's take a closer look at what efficiency really means in a competitive market. It's not just about doing things faster, it's about eliminating waste in all forms: time, resources, energy, money. Efficiency is born out of necessity, a survival tactic in markets where companies must be lean to thrive. A business that squanders resources is one that can't compete over the long term. It's in danger of being overtaken by those who operate with precision and a careful eye on how every dollar, every minute, every ounce of material is used. In this way, greed, when channeled properly, creates a feedback loop of continuous improvement. Take a look at the manufacturing industry. It's a perfect example of this principle in action. In manufacturing, every second counts. Every scrap of material matters. Companies driven by profit are motivated to eliminate any waste from the process. They'll invest in technology that allows for more precise measurements, reducing waste. They'll implement practices like lean manufacturing to ensure that every step in the production line adds value and nothing else. All of this is driven by the desire to increase profit margins. But the result is a more efficient, more effective process that produces higher quality goods at a lower cost. And who benefits? Not just the company, but also the consumers who get better products and often at a lower price. The same principle applies in the tech industry. Look at how companies like Amazon and Google operate. They're obsessed with efficiency. Every system, every process, every piece of technology they use is designed to optimize for speed and performance. Why? Because in their world, efficiency equals competitive advantage. When Amazon can deliver a product to your door faster than anyone else, it wins your loyalty. When Google can serve up search results faster and more accurately than anyone else, it becomes indispensable. These companies are driven by a desire to capture and hold market share, but in the process, they create systems that are incredibly efficient and user-friendly. Think about the pressure on companies to innovate in highly competitive sectors. In the automotive industry, for instance, companies are constantly striving to make cars that are faster, safer, more fuel efficient, and more affordable. Why? Because they know that if they don't, their competitors will. It's a race where greed, the desire to capture the market, drives each company to push the boundaries of what's possible. And again, the ultimate beneficiary is the consumer. They get better cars with more features, higher safety standards, and improved fuel efficiency, all because companies are driven by the competitive pressure to stay ahead. Now, let's consider how this concept plays out in the service industry. Take airlines, for example. This is a sector where efficiency is critical. Airlines operate on razor-thin margins, so any inefficiency can mean the difference between profit and loss. Because of this, they've become masters of operational efficiency. They optimize everything from fuel usage to turnaround times for aircraft to reduce costs. Every step in the process, from check-in to boarding to baggage handling, is designed for maximum efficiency. Why? Because every minute saved, every dollar saved, allows them to offer more competitive prices and serve more customers. Again, greed, the drive for profit, forces them to run a tight ship, and the customer ultimately benefits. Competition doesn't just drive efficiency within individual companies, it also raises the standard for entire industries. When one company makes a leap forward in efficiency, others are compelled to follow or risk being left behind. If one car manufacturer finds a way to make electric vehicles more affordable, others must find a way to do the same or risk losing market share. If one tech company creates a faster, more secure platform, others have to respond to stay relevant. This creates a cycle where everyone in the industry is constantly looking for ways to improve. And it's all driven by the same force, the desire to stay competitive, to hold market share, to maximize profits. We see this in the retail sector as well. Companies are always looking for ways to reduce costs so they can offer lower prices to customers. This is why you see innovations like self-checkout lanes, automated inventory systems, and streamlined supply chains. These aren't just cost-saving measures for the company, they also enhance the shopping experience for customers. They reduce wait times, ensure products are always in stock, and allow for lower prices. All of these improvements come from the company's desire to increase profit margins, but they also make the experience better for the consumer. But there's another aspect to consider here. Efficiency in competitive markets isn't just about reducing costs or improving processes, it's also about agility. In fast-moving markets, companies have to be able to adapt quickly to changes. They need systems and processes that allow them to pivot when consumer preferences shift or when new technologies emerge. This agility is a form of efficiency, and it's often driven by the same competitive pressure that drives cost cutting. When companies are motivated by the desire to stay ahead of the competition, they're more likely to build systems that are flexible and responsive. This means they can bring new products to market faster, respond to customer feedback more quickly, and adapt to changes in the market more effectively. And again, who benefits? The consumer. When companies are agile, they can deliver products and services that are more in line with what customers want. They can respond to feedback and make changes that improve the user experience. They can adapt to new technologies that make their products more useful or enjoyable. All of this happens because companies are driven by the desire to stay competitive, to capture market share, and to maximize profits. Even in industries where competition is less intense, the same principles apply. Look at utilities, for example. In many areas, utility companies operate as near monopolies, but even here, there's a drive for efficiency. Regulatory pressure and the potential for competition from alternative energy sources like solar and wind push these companies to find ways to deliver energy more efficiently. They invest in smart grid technology, improve their infrastructure, and look for ways to reduce waste. Again, the motivation may be to protect profits and market share, but the result is a more efficient, more reliable service for consumers. In each of these examples, we see the same dynamic at work. Greed, the desire for profit drives companies to seek efficiency. They cut waste, streamline processes, and look for ways to deliver more value at a lower cost. This isn't just good for the company, it's good for the consumer, for the economy, and often for society as a whole. Because when companies are more efficient, they can do more with less. They can deliver better products and services at lower prices. They can create jobs, contribute to economic growth, and in many cases, even reduce their environmental impact. The beauty of this system is that it's self-sustaining. As long as there is competition, as long as companies are driven by the desire to get ahead, they'll keep looking for ways to be more efficient. And as they do, they'll continue to raise the bar for everyone else. This creates a cycle of continuous improvement that benefits everyone involved. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes even the pursuit of self-interest can lead to outcomes that serve the greater good. Greed can be a powerful force, but its impact depends entirely on how it's channeled and where it's directed. When people think of greed, they usually think of excess, of taking without giving, of selfishness. But what if we think about it differently? What if we see greed as an incredible motivator, a driver for innovation, a force that, if carefully guided, can fuel progress? It's the desire to build, to create, to succeed that has led to some of our most impressive advancements as a society. Take the example of innovation. Greed, or rather the personal drive to do better and to earn more, can push us to think beyond our limitations. Imagine an entrepreneur or a scientist who isn't just looking to fulfill a need, but is also driven by the vision of what they could accomplish, both personally and financially. That kind of drive can lead to breakthroughs. I think about companies in the tech sector. The founders of some of the biggest tech giants didn't start their companies just to make a modest living. They had visions of changing the world and, yes, making tremendous profits. That ambition led to innovations we use daily, things that improve our lives, that connect us, that save us time. So greed, in this sense, is not simply about selfish gain, but about striving for something more significant, for a legacy of change. It's also interesting to see how greed plays out on a larger economic scale. In the pursuit of profits, companies expand, they grow, they hire more people. This growth creates jobs, stimulates local economies, and brings in tax revenue. Think about how communities are often transformed when a large company sets up a new office or a factory in the area. Suddenly, there's a need for housing, for schools, for healthcare facilities. Other small businesses start popping up to serve the increased population, from restaurants to shops. The original desire for profit ripples out into the community, improving lives and giving people opportunities they might not have had before. And when we talk about greed, it's also essential to look at how consumers today are influencing companies to think beyond profits. People want to support businesses that have values aligned with their own, and companies know this. They understand that if they want to succeed financially, they must pay attention to issues like sustainability, ethics, and social responsibility. The result, companies are finding ways to do good while still doing well. We see this with businesses that choose to source materials responsibly, that pay fair wages, that actively work to reduce their environmental footprint. This shift wasn't just born out of goodwill, but out of a recognition that consumers demand it, and that the reward for meeting these demands can be substantial. So again, we see greed motivating positive action. It's about companies realizing that the pursuit of profit doesn't have to be at odds with contributing positively to society. There's also the incredible impact that wealthy individuals can make through philanthropy. Some of the most significant philanthropic efforts come from those who amassed wealth through personal ambition. Once they reach a point where they no longer need more for themselves, many of them choose to give back in ways that create real, lasting change. Look at the billions donated toward education, global health, poverty alleviation, environmental conservation. The wealth they accumulated, originally driven by the desire to succeed, ultimately benefits countless people who may never know the names of these donors. They are creating a legacy that will long outlive them, and that's powerful. We can even see how competition-driven greed in the marketplace can result in improved efficiency. Companies competing to capture market share know they have to deliver high-quality products at competitive prices. This demand for efficiency forces companies to streamline their processes, cut unnecessary costs, and constantly innovate to stay ahead. And who benefits from this? Consumers. When competition drives companies to offer better products at lower prices, it's a win for everyone. Think about how airline companies, in their relentless pursuit of profit, have made air travel more accessible to people worldwide. Sure, they're motivated by profit, but the result is more people having the opportunity to see the world, to connect with loved ones, to do business internationally. And this is a critical point, all of this only works if greed is channeled constructively. Unchecked greed, the kind that leads to exploitation, to ignoring ethics, to cutting corners at the expense of others, is dangerous. It's what we see when companies put profit before people, when industries prioritize their gains over the planet's health, or when leaders make decisions that harm the very communities they should be serving. That's not the kind of greed we're talking about here. Instead, what I'm describing is a type of ambition that knows its limits, that respects ethical boundaries, that considers long-term consequences. For greed to be good, it has to operate within a framework that respects people, communities, and the environment. What's inspiring, though, is that we see more and more people and companies embracing this balanced approach. They understand that their success isn't just about what they can get in the short term, but about building something sustainable. They see that by aligning their personal goals with a greater purpose, they can achieve even more than they initially imagined. It's the idea that personal success and societal progress don't have to be at odds.